I am Feel It.
And I am Fix It. And we talk about life.
And stuff and things.
With the occasional rant.
Which you will have no problem doing.
Hello. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. Good night. Whatever it is, where you are right now, have a good one.
Hello.
Hello.
It's again another beautiful pre-fall, late summer, beautiful summery day.
It is. It's going to be a little bit warm, but it's not going to be as hot as it was.
Trying to be respectful of your fallness.
Yeah. Yep. But humidity is way, way lower than it had been. So I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yes.
It's going to be pretty gnarly when I get to work tonight, though, I will say. It's like they shut off all the fans. So it's a gigantic steel building with no ventilation, with the sun just beating on it all day, trapping all of that heat.
Jumping right into it. You were just jumping right into all the things.
I just...
Did you need a minute to let that out?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't mind it hot. I don't mind it. I mean, I don't mind it warm. I don't mind it a little hot. But man, it's just unnecessary. We have squat for airflow in that place anyway, but dang. Just saying. Anyway, so a little vent, a little rant, whatever.
Little go off there. That's
just
okay.
a moment.
That's
just
okay.
A moment. Sorry, my brain went there because I got to go to work tonight. You know, it is what it is.
We should apologize, episode 24. We should apologize that it's late. And again, we're not going to continue to use the excuses, right? But the things, I've not felt overly spectacular, kind of rough, and had to compartmentalize some of that energy.
Yeah, and life and stuff and things.
And then the morning that we were going to record, something came up, and a friend needed me, and I prioritized that, and he respected that.
Definitely.
So, we're going to get ahead again and just make that a thing, so it stops being an excuse.
Yep. So this one, admittedly, I think there's only one person at this point that's going to know that it was uploaded late.
Don't say that. You don't know who else.
It's fine. It's fine. You know, if it's more than that, awesome. But I do watch the... It's like there's one person that consistently uploads first thing. And it's late today. And we apologize. We apologize. And, we'll work on that. But, I hope you have some grace because, as we said early on, life and stuff and things.
Life and stuff and things. And because I wouldn't say lack of plan, I was not in a mood to decide, and you're not in a mood to decide, and it's still been a few days and you're still not in the mood. So I said, how about we just talk? And you finally went for it.
Sure.
Well, I don't know what you want to title this.
It is what it is, Well, it's not even necessarily decide. Just like sometimes when perusing the different avenues of the internet via whatever it happens to be,
there's a lot of junk out there
There's a lot of junk out there.
I'm not going to those places.
Well, sure. But I get a lot of notifications from Reddit and Instagram. And, of course, our daughters, they're sending me stuff on occasion. And then, there goes the rabbit trail. And sometimes...
the rabbit hole.
Yeah. And sometimes certain things that are posted that I read or... sometimes news articles and, just things grab my attention. And I'm like, you know what? This is something I want to talk about. And lately, there hasn't been that much of it. I think it's because there's so much political stuff inundating everything.
It's like, not gonna...
And we're not going to go there.
Not doing that.
If you know me, I don't have a problem talking about stuff. Basically anything with almost anybody. As long as we establish some ground rules right at the beginning. But that's not this isn't a conversation like that.
That's not what we're doing.
And that's not what we're doing. That's not the point of this.
I mean, I've been deplorable and despicable and weird and all kinds of things, and that's fine. Those names can continue to float out there. That's completely fine. But that's not what we're doing here.
Yeah. Well, and if you wonder why, it's like
I mean, over the years we've been called various things.
It's like, yeah, and it's,
in case you didn't catch that, whoever might be listening,
it's
deplorable, despicable, and weird.
And I've told people even recently, it's like, we agree on like 95% of stuff. We have, for the most part, the same goals, the same ideals, the same end thing in most cases. We just disagree on how to get there. And like we can figure that out. We can talk about that.
But this isn't that forum.
But this is not that forum.
So,
that's a two people or a couple of people sitting down and having a conversation, or even a loud conversation. But you got to establish some ground rules, and we don't have those ground rules here. It's like it's got to be two ways, and I'm a very firm believer is I don't necessarily care what your opinion is. I care if you can articulate it. You can have any opinion you want.
But
That's
do you
great.
know why?
But do you know why? I care more about do you understand why? And can you explain it to me? Because in the grand scheme of things, we needed to disagree on some stuff. But it's to everybody's benefit if you can articulate it and explain it, so at least they understand even if they still disagree.
But all of that said,
that is not this forum.
This is
for the actual topics. It's like the general, I have no problem sharing those kind of thoughts about the process, but the individual ideas, topics, positions, whatever, this is not the forum for that. This is the completely wrong type of
so we're not going down those.
Yeah, we're not
those
going
trails.
down. We're not going down those trails. Specific.
I said, how about if we just talk?
Sure.
And you did. You jumped really, really fast on the sure. I said, okay, let's do that.
Sure.
So, we'll see how this goes, and how often we ever repeat it.
Yeah. Well,
but
yeah.
You had a thought to share before I
No.
went back to what we were saying before. I said, you need to hit record because this is it right here. You were talking about how you feel stuffy, pollen, seasonal changes.
Yep.
You do have seasonal allergies.
Yep.
That's been a thing for our
My
entire
life,
time together.
Yeah. Basically my life, yeah.
And they have, unfortunately, have not really gotten good relief from it. And
and I will say in most respects, they are way better than they used to be. We've had some treatments over the years, and they've had a very good positive net effect. But it doesn't mean they're gone. And when it's really polleny, like the ragweed in the last couple of weeks has been through the roof. Okay, it's just bad.
And we've been sleeping with the windows. Well, you're not home with me at night, but sleeping with the windows open when we can, because it hasn't been humid and gross. And we were outside most of yesterday, and then having the window open. I even got up in the middle of the night and shut them off. Well, this fan off, because of the skunk smell that woke me up.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I slept through that.
Oh man, doesn't matter where you live. They get you, they find you. But
yes,
so you're a little stuffy.
Yes.
And the last thing you talked about was sleeping outside, where I was like, you need to hit record.
Yeah. Well,
I'm sorry. What were you saying? You want to sleep outside?
I didn't say I want to sleep outside. I said, you never quite sleep as soundly as you do outside. There's just something about, the cool air of night, and the quiet, and the sounds of nature, and just that it's very. Okay, I don't know about you, but I have never slept as well as I do when I sleep outside. During the day, that's just not a thing that's going to happen.
I'm going to say you had more experience with that than I did.
Yeah, back in the day, it was like my buddy. He set up a tent in his front yard. I mean, they had a house in the woods, and he did not sleep inside unless it was storming. And so I'd spend weekends over there, and there were a lot of summer nights over there, and it's like I'll tell you what, man, it's like you go to sleep a little bit earlier, you sleep a lot sounder, and you wake up way earlier, but you don't feel like you lost anything. But at the same time, for me, with the pollen, it's like the humidity, or not the humidity, but the dew comes down, and it just seems to pull the pollen with it, and it just like lingers. And so I sound like this. I'm a little bit stuffy right now, but that'll clear up as the day goes on. Not that I want to sleep outside. It's just, there's something to be said for it. Getting a little bit closer to nature while you're sleeping is not a bad
we
thing.
tent camped early in our marriage.
A little bit.
I wasn't a huge fan.
Nope.
I did not grow up with those experiences of just sleeping outside.
Mm-hmm.
We would do like late evening walks
Mm-hmm.
when I was older. My brother was older. He's older than me.
He's older than me.
But
Old man.
And I admit that sounds in the woods, the
Mm-hmm.
animals, it was quite creepy. Quite creepy. And then when we had our dog, and especially the first several months we had her, and she would want to go outside late at night.
Mm-hmm.
That was creepy to me. And we've done things like that when our kids were little, where we would do like late night walks.
Mm-hmm.
It was in town, in a
Sure.
nice, safe town, not out in the woods. But
Yep.
I don't disagree. There is something special about the crispness of night.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Still love it.
A lovely fall night, as I was even describing last week.
Mm-hmm.
But camping wise, yeah, I guess I was good for a night or two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Beyond that, not so much.
Yep.
And I think those days are done. I want those days to be done, honestly.
Sure. That's fair.
If you want to sit until the middle of the night on the beach and, listen to the water and the beauty of that, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what beach you get away with sleeping on, but,
Yeah, because most of them close at sunset.
and they do patrol them. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So even
Yes, they do. Yeah.
even up north.
No, kind of. I'm not a boat guy. Never been really a boat guy. I enjoy going out on other people's boats, but I have never had a desire to have one of my own. But I always kind of said that if I ever got a boat, I want something that was basically a floating hotel room. I want something I can sleep in. I don't want a fast boat. I don't want a party barge. I want something that I can comfortably go out into the water and just kind of stay a day or two.
I don't disagree. That'd be nice.
Yeah, just kind of bobbing in the water. I always thought it would be really cool to go in the middle of Grand Traverse Bay, drop anchor on the 4th of July, just have the fireworks going off over your head. I always thought that would be pretty.
Is that even a thing? Could you even do that?
Yeah, it's a public open water.
I don't know. I think you'd be insanely busy.
Yes, but at the same time, we've over the years there was a few times we went for they had 4th of July fireworks on occasion, and they had End of the Cherry Festival fireworks basically
I have
every
no
year.
idea what they even allow anymore.
And
honestly.
we'd go and we watch the fireworks, and then you spend the next hour and a half, 2 hours trying to get out of downtown.
Yes.
And this isn't worth it. Now, if we had a boat and you just drop anchor, we'd drop anchor out there, and then we just stay until, the afternoon of the 5th. And you don't have to worry about it. Okay, fireworks over. All right, let's do some dogs on the grill, in the dark at night, and just have some, conversations and watch the stars and listen to the water bobbing up against the side of the boat, and then you call it a day and you put the boat away for till next year. Which is why I don't have a boat, and I'd have no desire to have a boat, because that's about as often as I'd want to use it.
Yes, I could see that.
I don't.
I could see your ADHD really kicking in on that one.
I like to fish.
It's very specific.
I like to fish with some. There's a lot of activities that I enjoy, but I don't care about.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes much sense.
Might just be the wholetism. Maybe your wholetism.
It might be the tism. It just might be. It's just not.
Can't really dissect that one.
Well, all right. I have no. I don't care about baseball, which is a very divisive thing to say.
I know there's certain people in our life who just have a hard time saying that in front of.
Yeah, they don't comprehend that at all. But I don't care about baseball. Not really. It's just passing interest. I don't care a lot about football. I mean, I'll actually sit and watch a game of football. NASCAR. I can't say I really care that much, but I've been around people who it was It was their
living
thing.
and dying.
It was their, their hot button. Where, and I would happily sit down and watch a game with them, partially to spend time with them and to understand them a little bit better, and partially when someone's a fan of something, like especially a big fan of something, they become very knowledgeable.
Very passionate.
They become passionate. They become very knowledgeable. They become very informed of what's going on, and they see the nuances that the average passerby doesn't see. And you get them talking about it. It's like, and kind of like saying earlier about other people's opinions, it's like they articulate in great detail what's going on. And I better understand what's going on. Even though I still don't care, I can learn to truly appreciate why they're...
It's a way to form relationship
and
communication.
Well, and the same thing goes for me, anyway, with like fishing and a lot of other stuff like that. It's like I
I'm not a super outdoorsy person. I mean, that might be slightly taboo to say from, being from the woods of northern Michigan, but...
I can honestly say I spent more time outside when I was younger than I
But you're not like a sportsman.
But I was never a sports guy. I spent so many hours just riding my bike, trail riding out in the woods and doing all kinds of dumb stuff and bouncing off of trees and stuff like that. But chasing deer and I spent so much time in the woods, it was ridiculous. But
it wasn't hunting.
No, but I wasn't hunting. I'm all for hunting, but I approve and I support, and it's just not a hot... I have gone hunting, but it's not a passion for me. But when I'm with somebody that it is a passion for, I can definitely get enthusiastic with them, but I'm not going to do it on my own because it's more about latching onto their passion for it. But certain things, that's just how it works. And sometimes that's how you find your thing. It's like somebody else, it's their thing, and they bring you in and they start teaching you, and suddenly you're, oh, all right, yeah, okay, yeah, I get why you're into this. Let's do it more. I have a passing interest in too many things. Nothing is that big of a hot button for me, I guess. I mean, I guess I'm more so with like Lego than and
that's true.
And anything that involves me building something, so, appreciating some engineering and some ingenuity and some imagination, I'm all for.
We were just talking about this yesterday with someone who was about hobbies and like regaining me time.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about that before.
Sure.
We've talked about that in episodes where it's important to have that balance and the enjoyment, no matter how broke you are, to figure something out. And we were talking about archery.
Yeah.
You know, yes, I once upon a time enjoyed it very much. I've never really been into sports either. Football was probably the most prevalent that I could understand and sit and watch.
And that was, we were surrounded by football.
Yes.
So there was that. But
I mean, that was a big thing.
Well, for me, there was one guy I would spend, we would spend like Sunday afternoons with. And it's like he would flip through like 3 games.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Flipping back and forth,
really
checking updates. And he was very into it. He understood it on a very deep level. And so I'm like, okay, all right. I have no idea what that is. Explain it to me. Oh, well, here. And he'd get into details. Like, oh, okay. It's like, and then once he realizes like I was interested, and he like, okay, well, you see that right there? That was this. And it was like, and break it down. And it's like, okay, I have a much deeper appreciation for that than like, and he was also really into NASCAR. And
he was.
Oh, yeah, it's like, oh, look, a whole bunch of cars going.
I like the crashes.
150 to 200 miles an hour in a circle. Woohoo!
I liked.
And then it was like, oh no, you misunderstand. Watch, let me show you. And like, oh, okay. So I have a much deeper appreciation.
The strategery.
Yeah, I still can't say it's a hot button thing for me, but I can appreciate it. I learned to appreciate it.
Well, just like Professional bull riding.
Yeah.
Um,
It's impressive. Well, like professional, like Olympics, most of it I think is monumentally silly. To be fair, I think
those
in a
bull
lot
riders, I mean, they got some cojones.
of they
Real.
do.
Like that's
but
a special mentality. Right
seeing what people are capable of at the extremes is fascinating.
there. It really is. It's actually inspiring.
Can be.
I think so.
Can it definitely
it's
can
perspective.
be. It is. But it's still not a big. I mean, for me, it's not a huge. It's not a thing. It's not really a thing. But that's me, and it's your thing. I've kind of adopted the idea that I can disagree, but if that's your thing, have at it. You know, like I have a coworker. Back in the day, especially, he was hardcore into D&D, like huge, tens of thousands of dollars worth of stuff, minis and books and maps
no.
And I'm like, dude, I got to tell you, there's no way in the world that kind of money's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. And he was, but it's like, but at the same time, dude, that's your thing and that's what you're into. Have at it. For me, that's not going to happen. That's just not. But again, it's like, if that's your thing, if that's the thing that brings you joy and brings you some peace, and it's your thing, your thing might be, football. Your thing might be baseball. Your thing might be your car or your bowling league or. I know people who've, it's like they have personal libraries bigger than my bedroom. I mean, it's just like, that's their thing. And like, I'm not dinging you for having your thing. I just can't see me spending that kind of money on that same kind of thing, because that is not my thing.
I have to wonder about that level of extreme, but without picking that one apart.
Well, I mean,
but yes.
If you sat down right now and totaled up, I have a collection of vintage video game systems. I've got an Atari, an NES, a Super NES, an N64, a GameCube. Oh, excuse me, Wii. 2 Wiis, actually. PS1, a PS2, PS3, the original Xbox, an Atari XE. I mean, I've got all of these, and I have a bunch of games for most of them. If you total all of that up, that's probably close to $15,000.
Yes, that was over the course of a long time.
That's over the course of
like all of your adult life, and then some.
Since I was 18. Since I was 18 years old till now. So we're talking 32 years of slowly collecting. And I mean, so like, and even then, it's like, I enjoy video games. For me, it's a big kind of a nostalgia kick more than anything else. I'm not like avidly collecting. It just sort of happened. Like, I've picked up some games because my buddy and I used to. My buddy and I rented that game at the local grocery store because it had a video rental thing at the time, and we spent an entire weekend, like 36 hours, just nonstop playing that game, tag teaming it. So it's like, it's a kind of a nostalgia kick. It's like, a little memento. When I see that, I think of that period of time where we didn't sleep and we ate like crap and had a good time getting our butt handed to us. Nostalgia. But it's not it's a thing, but it's not like I live and die based off of that. It's like, I'd feel bad if they disappeared, but my life wouldn't end.
Did you think you'd have a hard time just talking?
No, I never have a hard time just talking.
You don't seem like you're having a hard time just talking.
No, well, I'm a bit in a place.
Okay. Did you want to explain that?
Sure.
Okay.
Was it Friday? It's Friday.
Oh, yes.
Yes, Friday. I woke up to a text from my mom. Well, I woke up and there was a text from my mom that she sent it just before 5 o'clock, when I was dead to the world at that point. 5 o'clock, I'm dead to the world, usually. And I'm like, oh, wow. An individual that is a friend of my parents had passed away. He was 70, 70.
I don't recall seeing the age.
30, 38, 76. He was like 76 years old, give or take. Had passed away. And, I mean, I can honestly tell you, I haven't seen them since, I want to say, like 20 years.
Probably. I remember meeting her. I think you're right. I think she'd come to our oldest daughter's baby shower.
Yes.
His wife.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I met both of them. It must have been your parents' the anniversary party.
Yes.
But again, that was quite some time ago. You're talking over 20 years ago.
Yes. Long time. A very long time. And, and they lived down in Florida, and then, and it's not like it was the kind of people that I was going to see all the time.
No, they had a lot of roots here. Though.
Yes. He was a pastor, and he was a pastor down in Reed City, which is, for the longest time, the only reason I knew that city existed. And, him and his wife, and they had 3 kids, and their oldest was, I was, 7, 8 years old, and it's like I was just another, to him, I was just, might as well be part of the family,
a small community pastor.
He was, but his kids were phenomenal young people. Even he was high school age at that time.
Oh, I believe his daughters babysat you, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
I've seen photos.
But
and they would dress you up.
Yes. Well, there was that too. But in all honesty, their oldest daughter was my first crush.
Aww.
Like hardcore crush. Yeah.
Okay, I think you might have told me that.
Yeah.
But that's nice. You just want to admit that. That's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. In fact, I think I still may have a shirt that she bought me when I put it on a teddy bear and just left it there.
Wow.
It was a mesh jersey, red jersey with numbers on it. But
I do remember that.
Yep. I don't know if we still have it. We might have lost that due to the basement flooding issue we had. However, that's another thing. But there were moments that flashbacks, playing games in their basement, which was freaking huge. And you still have flashes of their house. One of them, anyway.
Do you remember what road it was on?
No.
Okay.
No, I was in the back seat, not paying the slightest bit of attention
and
where we were
headed.
headed.
And I think they left when you were pretty young.
Yeah, they did.
I remember that.
Yeah, it's the life of a pastor. You move around. But even then, they moved out of the one house into another house when, the kids graduated and moved out, And I remember, I still have a scar. Okay, I have a scar on my leg from, he had a motorcycle, and I was fascinated by it. And it's like, you want to go for a ride? Yeah, let's go for a ride. So he took me around the block. And hopped off, and little kid in shorts next to a motorcycle exhaust. My leg backed up into that thing, and man, I was doing everything I could to not react at all. It's like we're sitting in the living room, I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm just trying to hold it all together, because good God almighty, that hurt. And because it was so much fun, I didn't want to give them any reason to not take me out for a ride again.
Yeah, I can envision that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just little things like that. It's like little core memories that still to, kind of flavored how I grew up and who I became. And man, he's gone. I can't even say I think, would think of them all that often. I mean, unfortunately, that's life. That's often how that works. And it's like, man, he's gone.
That still doesn't mean that
yeah.
he and his family don't have that monumental place in your life.
Oh, exactly. And I mean, like I said, there's those little snippets of memories where they were all part of it. And stuff like that happens, and you just kind of, it makes you a little thoughtful. It's like, man, it's like I did them a disservice by not thinking of them more often.
I think unfortunately we all fall into that. We've had that. I think we've had tones of that discussion already, but it does happen, and that's where you have to be intentional.
Well, and so many people in life come into and out of our lives in different seasons for different reasons.
Absolutely. And it's about remaining sensitive to who should remain in your life. And
to a degree, I think being thankful for those people that come into our lives.
Absolutely.
There's times when people come into our lives to inspire, and other times they come into your life to warn. They teach a lesson. Sometimes that lesson is who to not let in your life in the future. And other times it's like, okay, that's the kind of person I want to be like.
Yeah.
I can honestly say I have no memories, no negative memories of them at all. I had some memories that the last time I spent time with, it was all but their oldest son. Parents went down to Florida, went to Disney World for the second time. I want to say it was between my junior and senior year. I think that's right. I still had my hair.
Oh, yes, your long hair.
Yes, my long hair. My very 70s style hair. Anyway, it was not the 70s. I had very 70s styled hair. And my black members only jacket. Anyway, they were living in Florida. They had two houses. And their oldest daughter and son-in-law and their youngest daughter, the youngest daughter was living in the house next door. And their oldest daughter and her husband and their kids were living in the main house with them. And they basically invited us to stay for a few days. Since we were going to be down here, come on. I think my parents mentioned swinging through and visiting, and they were like, well, why don't you stay for a couple of days? So we did. And we were just talking about stuff, and I remember this was the oldest daughter and her then fiance. I was with her. She stopped in to his place for some reason. They were engaged at that point. I want to say it was just before the wedding, actually. And I don't remember what it was that triggered it, but she was pissed at him. And was just, it's like locked herself in the bathroom, and he was just like, what is going on? And, it's like, I don't know if it was like, there was a girl's phone number on a piece of paper, and it's like, it was obviously girl's handwriting on a piece of paper, and she didn't know who it was, and she was just freaking out. And they're like, man, I remember being mad about something, and I didn't remember what it was. I don't remember it quite like that. It's like, well, I mean, let's be fair. I was like 8. But I don't even know if I was 8, and it was just, little snippets of memories that are just, that all flash to the forefront. It's like, man, it's sucks. It just kind of sucks. But I kind of was realizing I'm at a point in my life where all of the formative people in my life are at an age where their time's almost up, if it isn't already up. And it's like, man, this is going to be a really hard next decade.
A decade?
Yeah. Easily the next decade is going to be really rough.
Why do you say decade?
Well, typically speaking, average life expectancy in the United States is roughly just over 70 years. 72 to 76 years, if I remember correctly. which it's always moving. And most of the people that were in my life are in that age range, like right now or about to be. Well, I'm not saying that after that, nobody's ever going to die again. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that there's a lot of people in my life
that are coming into that age
that
range.
are coming into that age range. And I can kind of
I see what you're
count on, it's like, okay, this is going to be a rough decade. And then to make it worse is when that decade's over, I'm moving into that decade.
Wow. We really just want to dive right into all of it.
It's just like, wow, okay, all right. It's just, it's one of those things. It's like, I can't really not think about it right now. It's just,
it's there.
It's there. Well, especially, it's like not that long ago when we went up to the funeral of a friend of mine.
A year ago this month. I think it was like a year ago this time, actually.
And, yeah, it's, I still have his memorial card sitting on my stuff in the other room, and every time I see it, it's like, oh, damn it. But there's a reason why I'm not like, okay, I know the kind of stuff I like to eat and drink, and how much of it I like to eat and drink, and the types and quantities of things that I really want, I know are not in my best interest, so I don't. I mean, I might still indulge in a few things that are probably not in my best interest, but at the same time, try to keep it in check.
Yes.
Because it's inevitable. It is a guarantee in life that we're going to pass on into the next one. I'm not in a hurry. But it's not that I'm not in a hurry, not because I'm afraid of the other side. It's, I want to give as many people as much opportunity to have to wait. It's like, I don't want to hurry it along. I want to make sure everybody's got as much time as they need to be, as ready as they can be, and give them as many reasons to miss me as possible.
Okay, I like that. And I love how you talk like you're in control. Though I know, I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah, it's like,
which, if you want a little mind bender, if it wasn't for leap year, it was a year ago this weekend. The date will be tomorrow, actually. So it was a year ago yesterday.
Awesome.
A year ago yesterday.
Yeah, and that one still is.
When he passed away a month or so prior, but yes, that was a very somber time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Still kind of, that one's still kind of rough for me. I only had a couple of years on me, but
he unfortunately made the choices that he made, and he wrestled with the demons that he wrestled with, and that was his own unfortunate story of addiction.
Yes.
And alcohol use.
Yes. Well, and fundamentally, I think it really came down to not dealing with grief properly.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I would.
But
agree.
That's another story entirely.
I would agree.
That's
well, that is, and but that's a whole nother thing that we can hop to. But did you want to actually have some kind of like break in this one?
I don't care.
Okay, let's have a break so that we can add in a fun little ad before we get too serious and stuff. Not that we haven't already, but let's do that.
Okay, we can take a moment for a not a sponsor.
Yes. Here at Feel It and Fix It, there are many products and services we use in our daily lives. They may not be a sponsor yet, but we can always dream. One of those is Chick-fil-A. Because God said so.
We're back.
Whatever one.
Have no idea.
You're going to choose on that. Okay.
I might actually, you know what? I think in the future, I'm going to just assign a number to it and roll a die.
You do that.
Make it completely random.
So, I want to touch on that
Use
while
the
we're
shiny
there.
math rocks.
Use the shiny math rocks. I want to touch on that while we're there. Not to get all psychological, which I know I always say I wouldn't and all that, and yeah, it just happens.
We try to keep it.
You know, I had enough
in
professors tell me, and a few supervisors in my internship say, you know, you're only going to be able to do that for so long. To try to segregate, right? Where not some, yes, of course. I wouldn't say some natural, like I'm always just going to psychoanalyze everything around me, but there is something about trying to find some order And I think that's just a natural propensity I've had forever. And I just picked a career where I could finally roll with it. Not that you're ever going to have every answer by any means, but it's a lot easier to help other people find theirs than to find your own sometimes.
The outside perspective always makes it easier. It's harder to see the way out of the maze when you're in the maze.
Oh, sure. Don't you all wish you had a drone? So, I mean, Jesus might be a little bit of a drone, but that's, again, a whole other thing. So, grief in that. It's funny, as I have been writing a book on and off for several years now, and I will get back into it, actually. I've decided, like, maybe that's just part of what I need to do with some of the slower time as I'm building my practice. The arc of grief in life, where we either don't recognize it, don't deal with it, or keep dealing with it, depending on your life. And we kind of talked about all of the above. So in some of my network meetings recently, as I've met pastors, business owners, even other therapists, just, moving forward and building my practice and getting my name out there. And it had come up, of course, how I sat down with just a phenomenal CEO of a company last week, a healthcare center last week. And it was an amazing opportunity, but to have a Christian bend in the conversation was nice too. You don't get to do that very often. And it was a Christian organization. So to discuss the idea that I fell into being more comfortable talking about grief, and we talked about some aspects of it, and especially how it will come out in adolescence.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically was part of that conversation, and just this world of constant anxiety and depression, and there's a lot of reasons for it, but when you look at and I could speak to and allow him to know a few details about our life with our daughters that I didn't recognize. I was kind of trying to go through my own grief, that I didn't see the effect on our youngest daughter in watching her grandparents pass, and then managing her emotions when it came to understanding her sister was never going to be the sister that she thought she'd be, wanted her to be, all the things that come along with having a sibling that has special needs. And she is the only other sibling. It's not like there was another one to detract. So in this conversation, I said, before even all of the stress and the woes hit of my chronic illness, they were there prior, but all these things had to kind of get set aside so that I could maneuver the grief of my parents and the loss of all those things, and then help my children when I was trying to help myself, and my husband, and my amazingly supportive husband, who went through it with me, but also had his own grief in his own way of having to deal with things. And I can absolutely say I have witnessed firsthand how grief can go sideways.
Oh yeah,
every age range.
Yes.
It doesn't. I mean, I'd say adolescence. I'd say 11 was probably the youngest client I'd had. So professionally, 11. Our daughters were younger than that, just a little bit younger than that at the time. So personally, a little bit younger. Maybe 7, 8. Up into 90s. I mean, I helped a woman do a life review in her 90s, just to kind of come to terms with some decisions she'd made and repair some relationships in her family. And it's very humbling, very, very humbling to be able to walk with somebody through that. So now, when I bring it all together and I continue to walk and live my life, I do have a very different perspective. And somehow, for some reason, and maybe it is God, and it's just a gift that I have, that it doesn't hit me quite the same. It doesn't mean that I don't grieve for the loss of someone's life. And, just recently in our church, there was a very young woman that had passed away. We didn't know her at all. We don't know many people well yet, but 32 years old with 3 children with a year-long battle of cancer. And that's the most basic information we know. But there aren't words. There aren't words for that. personally, professionally, I never expect myself to have words. But that journey that I started long ago to understand where grief goes sideways, where it's hard. And I told that gentleman last week, it's hard sometimes. You know, clients, they just don't want verses. They don't want fluff and stuff. They just want to cry. They want to swear. They want to be angry. And I'm the space to let them do that. And there is no judgment. There's absolutely no judgment there. It's whatever somebody needs to go through, because clearly they're not able to just go through it with just anyone in just any space in their life. And oftentimes, if you can just allow somebody to process that pain, to process the emotions, God already knows how they feel. He already knows.
Yeah.
And it's about kind of giving them the space to process it, empowering people to just feel what they feel, to be able to move forward, to not be stuck in it, to not be ashamed of it. And even that they might be relieved that that loved one that was just so draining on them is gone. I've been there too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't say that in so many words. It depends on the moment,
Sure.
you know, and how that might be applicable with a client. But I went through that with my dad. I was relieved
Yes.
when that was done.
Yeah, well,
And I had no shame in that relief.
Well, no, but a lot of people do.
A lot of people do.
It's like they're relieved that they're gone, and then they feel bad that they feel relieved.
Yes. And to speak very, very briefly in the situation we were talking about, it was more he was young, and you don't expect those things when you're young, and when you never allow yourself to go through that, and then you're going to continue to go through hard things in your life, and you're just trying to maybe void fill and ignore and avoid. You cannot avoid. And this is where I was also hit last week with something that I had this friend that I needed to spend some time with who'd been struggling with some infertility, and I could just see it on her. And I just encouraged her. You just got to be honest with yourself for a minute. Just stop, and just take a minute and be honest with yourself for a minute that this sucks.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
stop trying to fake it.
Yeah. Well, and that's a different type of grief. It's not. I mean, we all understand the loss of someone. I mean, I think everybody can relate.
It's
to
difficult.
that.
It's intangible, right?
It's the loss of possibility.
All the possibilities.
And
because she's already had one miscarriage.
Yeah, and I can't imagine, and you know that's not saying it's any.
Well, we had our own struggles.
It's only different.
I mean, even my miscarriage, but it wasn't a continual, years long saga.
Well, especially
where you're trying interventions and you're paying for those interventions.
Yeah, when you're
and they're not going anywhere.
And it's like there's something very, very real about that kind of loss. You know, where the
I didn't know I was pregnant.
No.
And I was probably only a few weeks.
Sure.
So there was that piece of it. I think it's different not knowing than knowing you were and losing it longer in term.
Yeah. No,
but
no doubt.
There was still the struggle of being told.
Yes.
Like you have all these issues and you and this was so many years ago. Things have come such a long way.
Yes.
But that's a different, you're absolutely right. That's a different grief.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect myself to have answers.
No.
Except to say, how about if you just give yourself a minute to be honest with yourself and let it go. Just feel whatever you need to feel. Just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Do it with your husband. Just go talk to him.
Well, those are
talk about it.
Yeah, those are the kind of situations where it's like my, not necessarily advice, but what I would say is these are the kind of situations that are either going to drive you together or drive you apart. And one of the things that it either becomes super glue or a wedge is whether or not the other person can understand that, or understand the grief of loss of a future that you just want so bad you can taste it. It's like all of those possibilities. And not saying that, like we don't know what's going on specifically, but there's that you're sitting there with that over your head, that possibilities, all of those things that you're hoping for and counting on and working so hard for, and in the end it's not in your control.
Mm-mm.
You can do your part, but in the end.
And she is a believer.
Yeah.
So I mean she does know that. But it doesn't always make that easier. And of course, she knows I'm a counselor.
Sometimes it makes it worse, actually. I think it's
of course it makes it worse.
Sometimes.
But I am a counselor.
Yes.
She knows that.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't trying to talk to her like a counselor.
No.
I was calling her out on how different she'd been and some other things that are being affected because she's not dealing with the feelings and the things.
The thing is, if you don't...
And as I said, I wish I could provide more than my honesty.
Yep.
But that's in the moment that hit her, and then she texted later on to thank me for that because... And not even like that there were marital things going on there, but it was just to talk about it. Talk about it with him. Because
and I'm not trying to imply that there is.
But you're right. It does affect the relationship. I wouldn't say it affected us in that way either, but it's still something that's better to go through together. You're going to have your individual, but you're also together in it.
As dark as it is, there's something very binding in a relationship when you're dealing with shared trauma.
Of course.
Now,
and he's also a fix-it. So there's that.
He's a dude. That's what we do. We just do it in different ways as a general rule. I'm way more literal. I'm a very fix-it in literal sense.
Oh yeah, no, you would literally fix me if you could.
Like you brought up your parents, specifically your dad. Our relationships were very different with your father.
Yeah, he liked you more.
I was very useful. Okay, he didn't start off that way, but you lost a dad that drove you nuts, and in a manner, in a way, I lost. It was more like I lost a friend. Like your dad
lost a very real father figure.
Useful uncle. I will go with useful uncle.
I mean, he tried to give you the tidbits and the advice and the expertise in a very redneck way sometimes. Well, but like
he
cared about you very differently than he cared for even my half brother.
Yes.
Or his other son-in-law.
Well,
we're not going to talk about that.
Yes, but you met them.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that.
But there was some knowledge there. He kind of figured some stuff out. But even though it hit differently, our grief was different. We'd lost different things. Even with your mother, we lost different people to us.
Absolutely.
And we grieved.
She also adored you.
Oh yeah, I'm awesome.
You are.
We didn't always get along, and we kind of bumped heads a little bit.
I don't know. That was more in the very beginning.
Well, there were moments.
Okay, there was still some parenting stuff every once in a while.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. But for the most part,
it was
okay. In some of the financial stuff.
And like I said, if everybody has the same goal, we can disagree on how those goals play out.
But again, I think I took the bigger brunt on some of those things. For as much as you disagreed,
there were times, yeah, sure, but. Even though the grief is different, at no point did I, or would I ever, dismiss what you'd lost. Even though it was completely different from me. And I think it's very easy for people to be people by nature are a little bit self-centered. Just, we're a person of one. And we often look at situations as, well, why is it bothering you? It doesn't bother me, kind of thing. It's like, it's not that big of a deal to me. Why are you so freaked out right now? To me, it's a sign of maturity to understand that just because you're fine doesn't mean in the same situation somebody else is too. And I think it's the ability to do that it's like, okay, you know what? I'm not hurting the way you're hurting. It's not affecting me the way that it's affecting you, but I can still be there to support you in it, even if I don't understand it, even if I might not even agree, or however that plays out. I'm here for you regardless.
Yes.
And it's in
And you
that,
were.
yeah, and that was the goal. It's like, and when you have your moments where it kind of, when the button gets pressed again, which happens, like, yeah, you know what, I can sit there the whole time going, man, you know what, I think this is a little bit ridiculous, and that's irrelevant, because it doesn't matter, because it's not to you. It's like, it's very real, it's very potent, it's very painful, it's very overwhelming, and it's like, you know what, I don't have to be there with you. Like, my job is to help you in the moment while you're dealing with it.
I think Crazy Town for me was more after Mom, because I was literally tossed into crazy.
Well, yeah.
Town.
Yeah,
that was like, that was a whole lot at once. And the verse is not coming to me in the moment. I unfortunately, I will have to look that up and bring this up at a later time. But, this grand misconception, oh, God won't give you more than you can handle. Actually, there's a verse that says very much the opposite. Because the point is to rely on him. Mm-hmm. And
that verse is often taken massively out of context.
Because I remember the day I was in the bedroom, I was taking care of laundry and hurrying through that because I had to get to Dad and do something. Mm-hmm. I remember it was a out of nowhere thing, but it was a something, and I felt awful that I was even having to leave the kids again, but you need to sleep. I mean, they were a little older, but still it was the constant go, deal with this and deal with that, and emergency this and emergency that. Usually calls from doctor's offices. And I just looked at you and I said, you want to stay married? You just got to help me figure this out. You got to be there with me in it. It was there's a desperation that comes the more exhausted you get, that you just want normal, and nothing about that situation was normal. And that's something I struggle with, the term new normal. I don't necessarily care for that term, because about it should become normal. There's an adaptation. Yeah. There's a acclimating.
I don't think it's necessarily normal. It's homeostasis.
Exactly. Where's the balance now?
Yeah, it's like what is the new balance? And then how do we approximate a healthy new balance?
But to get back to the original point of the start of this, is that right there. If you don't recognize that you need the balance and that something is off and that you really do have to work to achieve it and figure it out, then you're going to start taking that hurt and you're going to put it in the wrong places. Mm-hmm. That does become addiction. That does become unhealthy. Whatever that might be that's unhealthy. Typically it is like substance use, gambling, sex. Chasing relationships, which I also think might have been part of what he fell into. To a degree. Again, it's a void. Void filling measures.
I think he was trying to replace what he lost.
Exactly,
and
that's exactly right. I don't think other people that have done that. I don't know. They're trying to replace something, and that's not how it works.
No,
that's not how it works. And then you spend a lifetime trying to do it.
Yeah, there's. Nobody tells you how you're supposed to deal with it when you find your soulmate and then they leave or they're gone. And that's, I think, where he was. He found that person that was exactly.
And you knew him then, so
yeah, I knew him.
I would appreciate that you can speak into that.
It's like, not saying that they didn't have, they didn't butt heads and all of that. They had, they were human beings, but there was, at least he truly believed that was that one person, that was the exact person that he was meant to spend his life with. And then she tragically died in a car accident. And
I remember the hubbub all around town. She was well known.
Yep.
And it was tragic. It was awful.
It was. And there's a lot of stuff around that, but there was.
It was an accident.
It was an accident, but he did
you can't wrap your head around.
No, but there's, if nothing else, there's survivor's guilt. I mean, he
Of
wasn't
course.
there, but he outlived her. And then there was the loss of all that could have been.
Absolutely.
And then there was the loss of what was. And there is, I think he felt like he was to blame. Had a conversation with his mother at his, after the funeral. And she kind of pieced together that they had a fight that morning. So he always was concerned, always felt like she was distracted, and that's why she didn't see what was coming and couldn't do anything about it. So he never actually said it, but she just kind of, often we see little bits and pieces and we put them together over the course of a lifetime, and we can kind of speak into it. And I think that's where she was at. So it's like, there's all of that.
Well, you want to make sense of what's happened to your son and what you watched happen.
Yes. And
which everything she said made sense.
Unfortunately made way too much sense. All of that to say, he never really dealt with the foundational issue. It's like there was a lot of loss there. There's a lot of pain there. And you can try and drown it out, fill it with stuff. But like when the buzz wears off, you still have the fundamental problem. The foundation's still cracked. You still have to deal with it. And as we've said at the end of numerous conversations, it's like if you think you need help, if you're dealing with something, there's people out there that care.
Absolutely.
And you need to reach out, find one. There are groups and organizations and hotlines and websites, I guarantee, in your area with people that are passionate about helping people through the stuff that nobody wants to have to go through.
I am not an addiction specialist, but I do understand generalities, and there's the roots. It came from somewhere.
Almost always.
And unfortunately, people are typically at a very heightened level of blowing up their life before they reach out for help. And sometimes it's not always like they're ready, they're forced legally or feel goaded by family or what have you. And you pray that they're receiving something if they're not truly making those steps for themselves.
Well, and they're statistically, most programs fail. And I think and this is personal opinion, not fact, whatever. But it's because they fail because they're dealing with the habit and not the cause of the habit.
There really is some deep-rootedness to it.
It's like sometimes
the programs are good in and of themselves.
Oh, they are.
To give stability.
They are. They give you stability. They give you support groups.
Dig is a big deal.
But you need. It's not just about what you're doing. I mean, you need to fix that. But if you fix the habit, but you don't fix the reason for the habit, there's a good chance you're going to run back to something. You're gonna fill that hole somehow.
I have those conversations, unfortunately, all too often, where somebody's just trying to do it all on their own, and then they go right back to it or something else. Which I've had many conversations where I had to educate the individual what their loved one is doing. It's really because if they haven't dealt with it.
It's way easier to replace a habit than it is to break a habit.
Yeah. They've got their reasons.
But if you don't deal with the root cause, it's like you can take an aspirin for the pain, but until you deal with that breaking thorn in the back of your head causing the headache in the first place, it's just you're not dealing with the root cause. Sometimes it is about the nail.
Sometimes it is about the nail. Oh, we should post that. Let's post that one with us. I mean, it's been around for a minute, but it's great.
Sometimes it is about the nail.
Bring a little humor to this.
All right.
I think we should do a part 2. Let's do a part 2 like this.
Okay, we can do that.
Let's do a part 2 like this.
Okay.
I think we can do that. But we'll end this one.
Sure.
And then we can do a part 2 where we just continue to talk.
Okay.
And I am going to look up that thing. But you're also going to include the nail because that's funny.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay.
A link will be in the description.
Okay.
Anyway. I'm Fix It.
I'm Feel It.
We hope you join us in the future.
Until next week.
Have a great one.